global financial institutions, rules and frameworks, to adapt them to today's realities.
Good afternoon. The Secretary General will make some comments, and then we'll just have time for a couple of questions. Sir, please.
Distinguished members of the media, good morning. Let me start with a few words about the succession of military coups we have seen in recent months, particularly in the African continent. Many countries face deep-seated governance challenges, but military governments are not the solution. They aggravate problems, they cannot resolve a crisis, they can only make it worse. I urge all countries to move quickly to establish credible democratic institutions and the rule of law. Distinguished members of the media, tomorrow marks the start of an intensive month of multilateral diplomacy, both here in New York and around the world. As preparations intensify for the high-level week of the General Assembly, I will be traveling to the Africa Climate Summit in Kenya, to ASEAN UN Summit in Indonesia, the G20 Summit in India, and the summit of the G77 and China in Cuba. This multiplicity of summits reflects the growing multipolarity of our world. Power is more diffuse. Different countries exert influence in different spheres. The Africa Climate Summit will focus on climate action in a region that is paying a high price for an emergency it did nothing to create. The UN-ASEAN Summit will be an opportunity to further our cooperation in a dynamic and ever-changing part of the world. The G20 gathers the world's largest economies, and the G77 is the voice of the Global South, the largest group of countries on the international stage. Taken together, these summits demonstrate the vitality of our multipolar international community. But multipolarity in itself does not guarantee peace and stability. On the contrary, without strong multilateral institutions, multipolarity could be a factor for escalating geostrategic tensions with tragic consequences. Unless we strengthen and reform our multilateral frameworks, fragmentation is all but inevitable. And with fragmentation, confrontation can come. Multilateral institutions will only survive if they are truly universal. And I will therefore be carrying the same message to all these meetings, a strong call for reforms to bring our outdated multilateral institutions and frameworks in line with the economic and political realities of today's world based on equity and solidarity. Taking each meeting in turn. At the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi, I will address two of the burning injustices of the climate crisis. First, countries across the African continent have contributed almost nothing to global heating, and yet they are on the front lines of today's supercharged storms, droughts, and floods. Second, many African governments struggle to invest in renewable energy when abundant resources, solar, wind, hydropower, and critical minerals are on their doorstep. High levels of debt and high interest rates obstruct their access to the needed finance. We need global efforts to put Africa at the forefront of the renewables revolution. From Nairobi, I will attend the 13th ASEAN UN Summit in Indonesia. ASEAN is well positioned to build bridges of understanding between countries and cultures at a time of raised tensions and risks between East and West. My discussions will also focus on supporting ASEAN's five-point plan and efforts to engage all sides of the conflict in Myanmar in dialogue, while stressing that the de facto authorities must release all detained leaders and political prisoners and launch an inclusive process to return to the democratic institutions. From Jakarta, I will go on to Delhi for the G20 summit. My message to the world's biggest economies, that are the biggest emitters, is that as climate chaos gathers pace, the world is looking to them. They need to step up accelerating their reduction of emissions. They account for 80% of them. And supporting countries that are already paying the price for decades of heating caused by fossil fuels. G20 countries also need to look seriously into reform of global financial institutions, rules and frameworks, to adapt them to today's realities and more effectively enable developing countries to access the resources they need to invest in the Sustainable Development Goals. We must overcome the inequalities and divisions that blight our world today, including here at the United Nations. Unless we act now, the Sustainable Development Goals could become an epitaph for a world that might have been. This issue is vitally important to the G77 and China. At their summit in Cuba, I will focus on getting the 2030 agenda back on track, using science and technology for good, and ensuring that the multilateralism delivers for all countries. I look forward to engaging with global leaders at these 4 very different summits before the world comes together for the opening of the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York. Diplomacy is more important than ever to navigate the tensions of our emerging multipolar world. Dialogue remains the only way to find joint approaches and common solutions to the global threats and challenges that we face. Thank you.
Sherwin Bryce, please. South Africa.
Secretary General Sherwin Bryce, South African Broadcasting. You just returned from the African continent, and in the context of growing coups and growing intractable conflicts, I wonder what your reading of the situation is in Africa right now. We see a growing anti-Western sentiment. We see the foothold that is being created by the Wagner Group, and of course the lack of development and the growing militant elements in the region. What's your assessment of what is going on right now, given the fact that the institutional reforms you are calling for are not going to happen overnight? You and I both know that. So what can be done in the interim? Does the world lack a muscular diplomacy that is required for this moment?
I think on one hand, we need to strengthen our capacity to support the different African institutions, the African Union, the different regional organizations in their diplomatic efforts to bring peace, stability, and democracy to the African continent. But at the same time, we need to create the conditions to allow the Africans to address the root causes of the problems they face. And the most dramatic of those root causes are in the lack of adequate development. Development is a central objective if we want to create conditions for peace and stability in Africa. And that is the reason why it is so important to advocate for the SDG stimulus. It is so important to advocate for debt relief. It's so important to advocate for the rechanneling of special drawing rights. And it's so important to advocate for reforming our international financial architecture to make it coincide to the power and economic relations of today's world. If we have more equity, more justice in the way the global economy is run, Africa will enjoy better conditions to address the root causes of the many situations of political instability and, unfortunately, of the coup d'etats that we have been witnessing.
Michelle Nichols, Reuters.
Thank you, Secretary General. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. A question on the Black Sea grain deal. You wrote to Foreign Minister Lavrov earlier this week, I believe. What is contained in your new proposal to him to revive the Black Sea grain deal?
We presented a set of concrete proposals in a letter I've sent to the Russian foreign minister. We presented a set of concrete proposals allowing to create the conditions for the renewal of the Black Sea Initiative. We believe that the Black Sea Initiative has given a very important contribution to make the food markets more adequate to our objectives of food security. It has brought down prices. It has created conditions for access to the global markets of many countries, namely in the developing world. And we believe it would be extremely important to renew it. And at the same time, we took into concern the Russian requests, and I believe we presented a proposal that could be the basis for a renewal, but a renewal that must be stable. I mean, we cannot have a Black Sea initiative that moves from crisis to crisis, from suspension to suspension. We need to have something that works and that works to the benefit of everybody.
Can you give us any details? Can you give us any details on those specific proposals?
The proposal is relating to the need, as I said, to reestablish the Black Sea initiative, and at the same time, we have some concrete solutions for the concerns, allowing for an effective, or more effective access of Russian food and fertilizers to global markets at adequate prices. And I believe that working seriously, we can have a positive solution for everybody, for the Ukraine, for the Russian Federation, but more important than everything else, for the world in a moment in which so many countries are facing enormous difficulties in relation to guarantee the food security of their populations.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Steph. Thank you, Secretary General. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. Do you have hope for any breakthroughs with 3 weeks to go for the high-level General Assembly in terms of breakthroughs that would occur at the General Assembly with so many world leaders coming, such as peace in Ukraine? Any talks you expect to have? Thank you.
Hope never ends, but I would, of course, be lying if I would say that I believe that we are seeing in the immediate horizon a possibility of peace in the Ukraine. I think that we are not yet there, and that is why it is so important to take measures to reduce the dramatically negative impacts of this war in relation to the world.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you for a press conference on the 13th.
Bye-bye, thank you very much.
Araba ikó máa gbọ́dọ̀ wó. Araba ní egbọ́dọ̀ wó lọ́wọ́. Araba ikó máa gbọ́dọ̀ wó. Araba ní egbọ́dọ̀ wó lọ́wọ́. Aṣááyé kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ gbé. Araba ní egbọ́dọ̀ wó lọ́wọ́. Ìjì ayé kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ gbé lọ. Araba ní egbọ́dọ̀ wó lọ́wọ́. Ìtò ayé kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ pa ó. Araba ní egbọ́dọ̀ wó lọ́wọ́ jọ. Kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ wó. Onílé wo ọlọ́gbọ́n ayé o ẹ̀sùn mọ́ bí. Olóyè ayé ẹ má bá mi ká lọ. Fọyẹ gbéyàwó ọ̀rọ̀ ìlẹ́nu mi. Mo ní igi là ń bẹ nígbò ìgbò. Ìgbò ìmà mi wò lọ. Àràbà yìí wá ń gbìyànjú kò dọ́mọ kó wà lárẹ́rẹ́ lọ. Igi ńlá iyọ̀ wà lóhun tó máa fi ṣàràbà lóore. Oníwíwó ní káràbà ìlọ́wọ́ láwùjọ igi. Onílé wo kò máa gbọ́dọ̀ wò. Araba ní egbọ́dọ̀ wó láwùjọ. Ṣódà àbáwùsà Fúlàní wọ̀nyí bó ṣe ń pa wá. sunwọ̀n kò má dé ẹ mọ́ ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ kó jáwọ́ ní. àwọn àgbààgbà ikọ̀ wọn kò tíra mú odò sì wá kó wà láyé rẹ̀ lọ. ó máa ṣe òye kò má gbọ́dọ̀ wò. àràbà ní ẹ̀gbọ́dọ̀ wọ láwùjọ. èrò bá mi kọ́ mọ́ adé mọ́ èmi kí ọmọ yìnyọ ilẹ̀ akíkanjú ọkùnrin ogun èrò bá mi kọ́ mọ́ wọn ní gbọ́ ọmọ rẹ̀ iná máa rógún màmá ti di pẹ̀lẹ́ ọmọ bàbá rógún màmá ṣojo Sunday ẹ̀yẹ tó má ṣe bọ́ kí yẹn ò sí ní gbọ́mọ́. òrìṣà tí ó ṣe bọ́kọ̀ màdé mọ́ ni ṣe bí yẹn ò kọ́ mọ́ lágbẹ̀dẹ. ẹ̀bà lè jẹ́ ẹ̀bọ̀nà jẹ́ Adéyẹmí yóò máa sọ kọ̀ọ̀kan láì dáa. kìkì orí tó máa kọ́ ni wípé Yorùbá nation yìí ló going back in it. ẹ̀dá bí rẹ̀ ṣọ̀wọ́n òye kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ wò kò máa gbọ́dọ̀ wò kò nílé wò ọmọ Yorùbá ẹ jẹ́ ká rórí. ọjọ́ wo ni wọ́n dalẹ̀ Ifẹ̀ tán gangan àwọn kan sáré kó lè dára èrè bó bàjẹ́ kókò mí làwọn kan sá. ṣó dára kí dára ṣó ìwà lókun Yorùbá ìrònú kẹ́lọ́ fi mọ́ ṣọ̀kan ọ̀tá ló pọ̀ tán ìwà ká kó máa gbọ́dọ̀ wò. àràbà ní ẹ̀gbọ́dọ̀ wọ láwùjọ.
It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. When it comes to the transport update and it came to the national rail, well,
ìdí táwọn àgbààgbà yìí tán kò fi lè sòdodo ó ti sọ́wọ́n àjẹkẹ́ wá jọba ìran láwọn àgbààgbà ìgbèdánijọ́ kiri ó mà ṣe òye.
why there are so many societies are not when it comes to everything that is happening across the Nigeria. Once we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki with us, but for now, let's take a quick commercial break, and I will be with you. Stay tuned and don't you go away.
Tune in to On Point here on Star Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Check me out.
He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes.
How do you get the energy to do
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of the darkness. Of darkness.
So what did that?
Myself and the world will adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on The CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Star Radio.
Getting on
Mr. Olayomi Koiki with
The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about Sendwave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medase.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
all the way from our North London studios. And let me take this opportunity to say massive good morning to you, Yummy.
A very good morning to you back in the studio, Mr. Archie, and a happy new month to you, and a good morning as well to Frank, and good morning to all our viewers and listeners from around the world, and welcome once again to the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Yes. How are you? And thank you very much. Yesterday was a very special one. So our listeners, we know that you are not missing out on anything. And I tell you all the time, you see how agile we are. We are like amoeba, you know. We can just flex ourselves and then be somewhere else and do all that. But we do it because of the love that we have and the interactions that we have with you.
Well, you're welcome, Mr. Archie. That is what we love to do. We want to keep the fire burning, just as there's a lot happening, and there can't be any shortage in the information that we're sharing with our viewers and listeners from around the globe. So it was a great one to be able to host it yesterday, and we look forward to more of such. And I say thank you so much to those that join us as well from the sister broadcast and our listeners from around the globe that were also part of the program yesterday.
Yes, okay. So to every one of you on all the various platforms, we salute it. We salute you. About your day, Rachel. Good morning to you as well. We thank God and happy new month to you. All right then. Now, listeners, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Updates from Nigeria with Miss Olayomi Koiki in our North London studio. So let's crack on. All right then. Yes. Well, the federal government, states, and local governments, shared 4.37 trillion naira that the FAAC allocation in 6 months. Now, so where is the money? How many people got it? And what has it been used for? Yomi?
Well, the local government is the backbone of the economy, or should we say, that keeps the community going. Every month we know that because of the way the structure in Nigeria is in terms of the federal system, there is some kind of allocation that goes to all the governors across the state, whether your state is performing or not is not the question. You will also be entitled to some kind of a monthly allocation from the federal government. And yes, as usual, that for the FEC allocation in 6 months, federal government, state, and local government have now in total share what we can say to the tune of 4.37 trillion. The federal, state, and the local government shared that amount. You did ask where is the money? We know that the money, should be why many 774 local government seems not to be working. Yesterday we talked about a particular state where the governor in Ogun State seemed to be very superior to the local government because there was accusation of money against him that was meant to be for the local government, but it seems that the money is not coming forth. According to the NATE executive, according to the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, known as NATE, on the Federation Account Revenue Allocation for the first half of the year, we can now confirm, according to the Secretary, Executive Secretary Archie, who announced that yesterday that the federal allocation to the 3 tiers of government as of the first and the second quarter have now stood to the tune of 4.37 trillion naira.
And now, interestingly, you did talk about the governor who, before whom some are they various people that they are working with, or leaders of various groupings who came to prostrate before him. And I was asking the question now: if you've been accused of, or yes, allegedly of misappropriating state funds, now it's up to you to come out to say, no, I didn't do that. This is what I did. But this, let me put it this way: from full respect that we give to our people, those leaders that we have elected into power, that makes them, to do sorts to us with impunity. And I'm so sad about that issue that happened,
Well, you're quite right. Dapo Abiodun, as the governor of the state, was in the news. We'll see if we can get the video. Apparently, a councillor have now been suspended. The local government chairman that accused Dapo Abiodun of hijacking the fund, Wale Adedayo, the chairman of Ijebu East local government, which is one of the local government in Ogun State, have now been suspended for 3 months over allegations of maladministration and financial mismanagement. Adedayo was suspended on Thursday by 7 councillors of the local government legislative council. The local legislator said they received different petitions on allegations that needed to be investigated. The councillors have directed Adedayo to appear in his next sitting, which is coming up in the next 13 days. We know that Adedayo's suspension is coming few days after he accused Dapo Abiodun, the Ogun State governor, of hijacking funds meant for the local government in the state. Could it be that some of the councillors and the other local government that have actually prostrated and knelt down, because there was also a woman in there, are now fighting on behalf of the governor against one of them that is speaking out against the governor? Adedayo accused Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State of withholding the statutory federal allocation due to the local government, guess what, for the past 2 years. In a letter on Sunday, the embattled local government chairman begged Olusegun Oshoba, the former governor of the state, to wade into the matter. Since we, Ogun State local government chairman, got on board in 2021, it has been 0 federal allocation to each local government. And this is where, this constitution continued to be reviewed according to the amendment to allow what we call the autonomous of local government to have that money directly. And you can tell why FIFA refused to pay the Nigerian Football Association directly into the account as against paying it to the female soccer team at the just concluded Australia-New Zealand World Cup female tournament. But paying that money directly to the female participant means that they are guaranteed that the money will go to them.
Okay. It is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 11:15. And it is updates from Nigeria with Mr. Olayomi Koiki in North London studios. And I'm Archie here in the South studios. We're bringing you updates from Nigeria. Now, interestingly, the president says, now, Niger, Gabon, I am scared copycat coups will spread across West Africa and others. Now, why is he scared? Now, I agree that there could be sort of a copycat thing, but you want the support of the populace. Let me put it that way. So if majority of the people are not suffering, or if we are all suffering, and we can see that whatever you are doing, you are, sweating to make sure that everybody's life is better off. Do you think when there's a coup, people will not come to your aid? Yummy.
It seems the Gabon coup has come as probably not surprising to the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Remember that, just as he was sworn in as the president on the May 29, in less than 2 weeks, he became the chairman of ECOWAS. And, I remember one of his speech during the ECOWAS was to say that coup is not, in the interest of Africa today. But it seems that, he's now dealing with multiple coups within Africa. One is still the one in the table by Niger Republic, which is just a border to Nigeria. And the other one is in East Africa, which is Gabon, again, not too far away from all the region. The question this morning now is, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, says, I am scared there will be more copycat coup that will spread across West Africa. There are reports out there that seems that Cameroon, Libya, and also in Kenya are reshuffling their military. We know that Tinubu has actually removed those that were in there when the former president Muhammadu Buhari was there. So that literally means that we now have the new generals that probably have to be loyal to the government. But this morning, President Bola Tinubu yesterday said the overthrow of the government in Gabon has now confirmed his fears that there will be more coups in Africa after Niger Republic. The president stated this when he received the Nigerian Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs that was led by the Sultan of Sokoto. Remember that the Sultan was part of those that were sent to Niger, but they couldn't bring back joy to the president. Muhammadu Saad Abubakar III at the State House. My fear has been confirmed in Gabon that copycat will start doing the same thing until it is stopped. How do you stop it is the question. I was listening to the United Nations General Secretary yesterday while he's preparing for a lot of his outing to Kenya, Cuba, and the G20, where there will be so much activities just before the United Nations General Assembly that is coming up. And in what the UN General Secretary seems to be concerned about is that his fear has always been this. Let's listen to a little bit from him.
Engaging with global leaders at these 4 very different summits before the world comes together for the opening of the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York. Diplomacy is more important than ever to navigate the tensions of our emerging multipolar world. Dialogue remains the only way to find joint approaches and common solutions to the global threats and challenges that we face. Thank you.
And this is the first question coming to the UN General Secretary.
You just returned from the African continent, and in the context of growing coups and growing intractable conflicts, I wonder what your reading of the situation is in Africa right now. We see a growing anti-Western sentiment. We see the foothold that is being created by the Wagner Group, and of course the lack of development and the growing militant elements in the region. What's your assessment of what is going on right now, given the fact that the institutional reforms you are calling for are not going to happen overnight? You and I both know that. So what can be done in the interim? Does the world lack a muscular diplomacy that is required for this moment?
Let's hear the answer.
We need to strengthen our capacity to support the different African institutions, the African Union, the different regional organizations in their diplomatic efforts to bring peace, stability, and democracy to the African continent. But at the same time, we need to create the conditions to allow the Africans to address the root causes of the problems they face. And the most dramatic of those root causes are in the lack of adequate development. Development is a central objective if we want to create conditions for peace and stability in Africa. And that is the reason why it is so important to advocate for the SDG stimulus. It is so important to advocate for debt relief. It's so important to advocate for the rechanneling of special drawing rights. And it's so important.
So you've just had the briefing. This was the briefing at 12:30 at New York as the United Nations General Secretary Antonio Guterres is preparing a 4 major events before the month of September, the new moon, the bright blue moon, as Bola Tinubu, the president, is concerned. He will be traveling as well, and we've been confirmed that he will be the only president in Africa that will be having a sideline meeting with the United States President Joe Biden at the United Nations General Assembly that is coming up this month of September. So you can see that there is a lot full in the cup when it comes to Africa. And I'll come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie, the Starr Radio UK, as we continue to give you all the headlines coming from the United Nations briefing every day. And right now, as we continue to review some of the news update from Nigeria.
Well, listeners, Starr Radio UK. Adeniji, I didn't know whether I acknowledged you. My apologies if I didn't. I hope you are doing very well. Thank you very much for joining us. Listeners, Starr Radio UK. Updates from Nigeria with Mr. Olayomi Koiki. Well, the president says he's scared of what is happening. Copycats could start. But the question is, what are the push factors? What is happening? Are our leaders actually serving us, or are they serving their own parochial interest where they are looking at me, myself, and my dog? Is that what they are doing? If they are there to serve the people, I really wish that there could be like what do you call it? A state coup. That would be lovely, very, very lovely. Just for the state. well, a particular state, and they say the governor is not doing well, and then we overthrow the the citizens will go in there and check the governor out because they are there. They think that, I mean, how can somebody, what we were talking about, was it last week when we were talking about 5 billion that was supposed to go to a particular state, and it was only 2 billion that are reached there.
Not a single state has received that exact 5 billion. I was looking at Ondo State yesterday. Ondo actually confirmed that they've received 2 billion. Maybe the remaining 3 billion is still en route to them. But you had the General Secretary talking about, we need to build, development, strong institution. The question is, Buhari, the ex-president for 8 years, refused to abide by the constitution, that the DSS has actually become, their own power. These are also phantom that is bringing some of the reason why Anthony Guterres is a bit concerned. Bola Tinubu has been the president for the last 80-something days now, going to almost 90 days. Yet, institution is still being abused as the DSS is overshadowing what the court is saying when it comes to Emefiele. So the question is, how do we resolve some of these crises when it comes to the coup in Africa? Mr. President Tinubu expressed concern about the coup at the Republic of Gabon on the west coast of Central Africa. Meanwhile, he said all diplomatic options will be exhausted with the military junta in Niger before any military intervention. So there is still the military intervention on the table, according to the president yesterday.
Well, listeners, Starr Radio UK. We'll talk about that during the course of the days and the weeks to come. But for now, it is all Starr Radio UK. And let's go on to some of the other stories that is making the rounds in Nigeria this morning that we are looking at. Well, now Herelius, okay, let's not pick that. Let's pick another one. I didn't want to pick on that one. Just a minute. Okay. Now, 2,588 children are sexually abused in 1 year. Now, what are they talking about? Is it that? Is it? We call it. Is it a female mutilation that we're talking about, or sexually that somebody sexually abused them? Can you throw a bit of light on that, please?
Well, this is Lagos State we're discussing right now. Just one state out of the 36 states that we have, at the Federal Republic of Nigeria today. Yes, you're quite right there. It's a very sad one that almost 3,000 children are sexually abused in 1 year. We're not talking about FGM as you've talked about there. We're talking about all kind of manners of sexual abuse. Remember that there's still many children that are hawking, and some of them will be abused along the line. According to the Lagos State government, yesterday disclosed that at least 2,588 children were sexually and emotionally abused during various domestic violence that was recorded in the state between August 2022 till July 2023. The Permanent Secretary and the Solicitor General, Ms. Titilayo Shitabe, stated this at a media briefing as part of the activities to flag off 2023 Domestic and Sexual Violence Awareness Month that team Not in My Lagos, represented by the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Domestic Sexual Violence Agency, Mrs. Titilayo Vo Adeniyi. She added that 40% of those children have been taken through counseling programs to ensure that psychologically deal with such events that they have witnessed without having a permanent and negative impact. I was looking at these kind of abuses that have taken place in Lagos State. I mean, Lagos should be a little bit much more up to the task when it comes to the other states. So if the number is this high in Lagos State, you can think of some of the other states across the country where the number will probably have gone a little bit more. The agency now receives an average 250 clients every month. For adults, 95% of survivors were female. 9% were male, while 45% of the survivors were boys, 55% of them were girls. In the period under the review, the agency has provided service to 7 persons with disability who were also experiencing one form of gender-based violence or the other. The youngest child that experienced sexual violence was 18-month-old baby, while the oldest client that experienced domestic violence was a 79-year-old woman.
Well, I don't know when things like that happen, whether the sentencing is deterrent enough so that others will not actually also perpetrate the act. But at times it's just like a slap on the wrist, and then the person just goes. And the next moment, there have been cases back in Ghana where an adult has abused a little girl, and then they'll say, "Oh, you have to come to the chief," and they say bring goat and whatever, and then they say and some snap, and they say they pacify it. And I said that is criminal. Take the person to court and imprison the person for the person to see, for people to know that when you do that, you are not tolerated in the community. But what do we see? Because if my little girl, you do that to my little girl, I'm going to deal with you. Oh my goodness.
You're correct. All right, let's look at the SDG Goal 5, gender equality, and that is going to be the one of the theme. While I was again at the United Nations briefing of the Security Council that has been America representative, Albania will be taking over this month for the month of September. She was actually more focused on the SDG goals that needs to be attained. Nigeria has promised to have the SDG goal by 2030. So we do not have much time left. We have just less than 7 years before that. But looking at that SDG goal 5, gender equality, what does it say? Ending all discrimination against women and girls is not only a basic human right, it's also crucial for sustainable future. It is proven that empowering women and girls helps economic growth and development. The UNDP has made gender equality central to work. How and what more needs to be done to reduce that number? Because Lagos should be, the forefront of making sure that everyone is safe, especially the children and the elderly ones as well.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Updates from Nigeria with Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm Archie here on the morning show that comes to every weekday from 10:30. Yeah. So we wanted to be part of it every time we bring your way. And there are other programs that will bring your way. One that I don't want you to forget of, last Wednesday, it didn't happen, but there's one that makes the rounds like no man's business, the Niger Voices. It comes your way every Wednesday at 6 p.m. So let me say 6 p.m. local time. All right, then? Good. All right. So now let's move on to some other stories. Well, Nigerians are attacking, harass Illinois governor over President Tinubu's alleged certificate scandal at a Chicago university. Now, I remember that the president was putting every impediment the way of the PDP leader Atiku from assessing that certification. Now, what has come out from there? Is it that they got a name that he actually went to that university or that particular institution, or maybe the person that came out maybe was a woman, and maybe the person had transitioned to be a man who is Tinubu? Yes, Tinubu. I don't know. Tell me more about that, Yomi.
It seems that the presidential and the former vice president of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, is still not yet satisfied, with Bola Ahmed Tinubu yet when it comes to how his education background has become something that we have to keep looking for, trying to get a court judgment to be able to make sure that and it seems that as many other Nigerians are also bombarding Illinois' governor, and he has actually had to shut down his comment section. These are part of the bully that goes on the social media all the time, especially with the obedient movement that sometimes could become a little bit too much, and we've seen attacks of such most of the time where many have to either discontinue. I remember even up to our the former Nigerian British High Commissioner Katrina Lang literally had to shut down comment section because she couldn't handle as many of the backlash that were coming on that as well. Yes, Atiku have not been able to get as much as what they want, but already it seems that of the certificate or part of the document seems to be different from the one Bola Tinubu submitted in the INEC or some of the qualification that he has attained. So there is still a little bit to search, but it seems that the headline this morning says that Illinois governor had to shut down his comment section because of the bombardment from Nigerians because of Bola Ahmed Tinubu certificate saga in Chicago.
Well, that is our own problem if we want to talk about it, that our president has not got the necessary certificate. It's not up to them to talk about it, because I believe but if he's lied on the INEC registration dates, that is wrong. That is fraud. That is fraud, because he didn't tell us the truth. And to become a leader of a country, you need to be truthful, because virtually, if you want to go to equity, you have to come with a clean hand. So if it's not, then I think there's a bit there. But I know why Atiku is doing that. That he could use that to stoke more fire. That whatever he is not, and therefore maybe the election tribunal might rule in their favor. Well, so we don't know when this election tribunal ruling is going to take place. They are shouting it in secrecy, right?
Well, we might get something this month. It seems that it's becoming a little bit, probably they're trying to make sure that there's stability in Nigeria, because they have to come out and say something, as much as they might try to hide away from such. They must. The tribunal have been concluded. Everybody has given their final remarks. So it is now up to the election tribunal to come out and tell Nigerians, based on the evidence submitted by all the three political parties, what is going to happen next. And it seems that they are being very careful because everybody knows what could be the end of such outcome. But we can only hope that, whatever the outcome, many Nigerians will accept it either in faith or would disagree with it in faith as well. But again, whatever the outcome, everyone is not going to come down.
Well, heaven is not going to come down, but we hope that what has happened in other places will not happen to us when elections are taking place and someone has been declared president, winning 64 percentage, and then the next moment the military say no, it's all fraudulent and therefore annulled, and the person is in custody. But interestingly, the UN Secretary General did make a statement, and that's one that I want to relate to this last story that I want to pick, and then I can allow you to bring all the others pertaining to having institutions that building, robust institutions, institutions that are not, controlled by the central government or anything of the sort. But the lawless secret police, the DSS operatives, have denied Sowore access to the IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu as activists demands immediate release. Now, there are lots of, we'll talk about the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Emefiele's case, where the court is saying one thing, and then they are also acting on another. We had Nnamdi Kanu, the court says release the person, and they are also acting on doing other things. So you look at such system and you ask yourself the question, so do you think that if the public are sitting back, or there's a ruling that Dr. Sunday Igboho's property that has been destroyed, or that was destroyed by the DSS at the time, they need to compensate him for whatever they've done, and then they are not doing so, and then the public thinks that, look, what is going on is not right. We can't take that, because people think that people can be controlled all the time. You are lying if you think you can control people all the time. It gets to a point that the people get angry enough, and then fire flares. So if they are saying this, and the DSS is going on like this, and that's the statement that the UN Secretary General made, then it means that the whole of Africa, I bet you, are sitting on tenterhooks. Yummy.
You're quite right. The United Nations General Secretary Antonio Guterres, believes that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, regardless of whether you're a criminal must also be factored into who you are. You talked about Showore there. Showore could not get that visit. I think he actually said it's going to be the third time he's trying to get to a visit request, from the leader of the IPOB, Mazen Abdekano, but that doesn't seem to be coming, anytime soon. We remember that that we do not have, the qualified, legal team in the country, but the institution in Nigeria, we keep saying they are not strong enough to allow it to perform some of its, judiciary system that many Nigerians expect. So what we are saying right now, like you said, it seems that, we're sitting on a really, really difficult, situation. Those that are agitating, they have the right. We see that the Scottish continue to say to the Westminster that they must be given the other part of a referendum, but that doesn't seem is going to happen anytime soon. So, but how do we resolve all this problem? Time will tell. But as we go into the next part of the conversation is the NPC seeks military support to deliver credible census. We know that the former President Muhammadu Buhari wanted to make that available before he left, but I think he decided to leave it for the new administration to deal with. The NPC chairman Nasir Kwara has sought the support of the Nigerian army to conduct a credible census in Nigeria. The chairman of the National Population Commission, Nasir Kwara, has sought the support. We are still not sure of the total numbers of how many Nigerians. We are only told we are 200 million plus, but until we have a credible census up to the north, to the middle belt, to every part of this country, then we can be able to confirm such. But we were speaking again in Abuja, where there was a visit, was to thank the CDS for the good job the military had been doing for the country, adding that they had continued to defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria and making sure that the nation continue to experience peace.
Now, Yomi, it's quite interesting. Why is he asking for a military help? Are the military going to do the census, or they are scared that people will attack them for counting people? What is the sense in doing that?
Well, according to him, the census, which was supposed to be conducted in April, like I say, just some few months before the former administration was ending 8 years, has now been put on hold pending the new administration of Mr. President, has reassured us that the census will be conducted according to Mr. Kwara. We are here to seek the support of the Army in providing security coverage for functionalities, offices of the state and the local government level, as well as having access to the military barracks nationwide. So that is the reason why, they are asking the military, for such support. We know that the military are always there, especially as the election that was just concluded, whether it has been fair or not, we saw that the military performance was there to make sure that the logistics of moving the materials and protecting, as much as they couldn't protect a lot anyway, because we saw ballot snatches. We even saw military helping them to snatch the ballots anyway. So maybe the military might be helping, to also do otherwise during the census, because there's video evidence out there where in some state, the military came with the vehicle, removed the ballot boxes that people have voted into, and then cut it away. And, since the military uniform, some were stopped, but some were able to, take it away, even apart from the hooligans. So you can see that, conducting election in Africa is a do or die. And like I said yesterday, as many people were saying, get in touch with your the representative so that you can facilitate the peace and the diplomacy, which the United Nations believe that dialogue and diplomacy is the only option. But the question is, can you really force or bring diplomacy when the politicians that are already been voted in did so in an illegal way, where ballots were stolen and people were not allowed to vote for their own free mind?
Yeah.
And that is a very difficult question that these politicians will be ready to seek. And you do not also have what it takes to compete with them in terms of the wealth.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I say all the time. They are there to enrich themselves so that they will control us all the time. And that is what citizens have to stop. If they come to give you money, take the money, vote against them, let them get out. But well, I can only say so much. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios, and I'll allow Yomi to bring you the rest of the stories and what is happening on the social media. Over to you, Yomi.
Well, the social media seems to be asking why the Nigerian Bar Association, the legal part of Nigeria, association, invited Portable to their end of the year conference, because you can see the image there. He actually was displaying all kind of manic that some of the lawyers had to run out of the venue. Why Portable perform at our 2023 conference, NBA? The Nigerian Bar Association has explained why singer Abib Okikiola, popularly known as Portable, performed at the Association 2023 Annual General Conference that took place yesterday, dismissing the rumor making the round that the artist was paid to perform. Late last night, lashed out at the NBA for inviting Portable to perform at their show that consisted of learned individuals, adding that the association had, by the singular act, not help his reputation and reduce them to ras. Ras are people that do not have what it takes. And since he's not the kind of Davido and the other ones, you can see him there, jumping from one end to the other. In the reaction, the national publicity of the secretary of the NBA, Akoredila, told reporter that Portable present at the event to entertain Obi Kubana partnership with the program as the headline sponsor. So you can see that the division in Nigeria is not just within the rich and the poor alone. Even the lawyers will not want somebody like Portable that call himself Were Olori, a mad musician, to come and play at a very elite event like that in Nigeria. We talked about again local government chairman. I'll take one more again from Ebonyi, as the PDP knocked the local government chairman over anniversary celebration. The Ebonyi State People's Democratic Party has knocked 13 local government areas chairman in the state for celebrating 1 year in office, saying there was nothing to celebrate. You can tell that there's just a lot happening, in most of the states across Nigeria where they are celebrating nothing to celebrate of. So that seems to be, why the question is, as many local government, the question is, how do we bring all these to become, workable? This was the main opposition party said none of the council bosses have done tangible project in their local council area to justify the huge monthly allocation they receive from the Federal Account Allocation Committee. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning. About 4.4 trillion have been shared by the three ties of the government. According to the PDP Publicity Secretary Chika Iwoba, stated this during a meeting with the journalists in Abakaliki on Friday, adding that the local government chairman were yet to challenge him on the 2 billion ecologic fund allegedly diverted to bribe judges at the Ebonyi governorship election petition. So it seems that money that is meant to be for ecology fund is now being used to bribe judges. He maintained that the council chairman will soon give account to Ebonyi citizens on what they did with their monies. Let's now go straight again to what is happening on the social media. In terms of the lawless secret police, DSS operatives deny Omoyele Sowore access to the IPOB leader. These are some of the response as well. Yoruba Kingdom Education says Nigeria is a state. Princess Erose, same thing last year, waiting. And the next one says they always deny. Sowore will always use Nnamdi Kanu to keep himself relevant. After being a nuisance during election, it is time to use Igbo people to farm engagement against rubbish. So you can see the dispute between Nigerians, even as Sowore is trying to be a middleman, to stay very neutral. If you're Yoruba, you support. If you're Igbo, if you're Arawa, even during the Isheshe young man that was kidnapped from Ibadan, Sowore says, regardless of whether your faith is, my job is to speak. But it seems already that it's getting backlash from some Nigerians. We take one or two more. This one says a very lawless And Sonny Angel says, I hope they did not raise a finger on him as they did to NCS Nigeria official at the court over Emefiele. And this one says, good morning, class. What figure of speech will you categorize lawless police? So you can tell that those institutions that the United Nations is looking for in Nigeria or Africa is going to take a long time. Wow, it seems already at 10,000 tweet this morning, Tinubu must be disqualified, hashtag is trending. You can tell that it is still something. Wike is trending. Remember that Wike is a member of the PDP. And one of the headlines that I just saw not too long ago, Daily Momodu says that, Wike is not too big to be punished under the parties. So I don't know what is going to happen because it seems that Wike is playing both sides. We know that Daily Momodu, the owner of the Ovation Group, also one time a presidential aspirant as well, says Wike doesn't own PDP. He can be disciplined. Well, Wike says nobody can take him out because he was part of the founding fathers of PDP. So it seems that Wike is playing double game. He's also a FCT minister. And I was listening to the president yesterday during again the NBA event, not the one that Portable was there because he was after the party that Portable came in. Tinubu actually said to Wike, if I ask you for a land in Abuja, please make sure you deny me such, but make sure that the rail metro line works. And that is part of why Bola Tinubu is saying that there must be a review every 6 months from all his ministers. So we wait and see how all that is going to happen. Let's go back again to the social media. The leader and the prime minister, government in exile of the Biafra, had a press statement yesterday, and the message was to Gabon, reminding Gabon that Gabon actually put effort towards what they called the Biafra war, because Gabon supplied what they call the Gabon Gari. I never knew that. Yesterday, during the press statement, he actually said that, again, they are having their open hands ready for Gabon at any time as well. That was the press statement yesterday from the government in exile. Now, let's come back again as more activities. The ISWAP Army of Tumbo Gani Malam Somalia, its fighters and family members have surrendered to the troops of Sector 3. Well, you wonder if they surrender, then what next? Do we start feeding them? Do we start, trying to bring them back to reality as Nigerians, or maybe fighters that decided to kill Nigerians, but now, they've dropped their arms? And let's see if we can get that image before I come back again to you in the studio, because it's already 11:50. So you can see that these are part of those individuals that have created havoc to so many communities in Nigeria. And the headline this morning on the social media says they have actually now surrendered to the 3rd Multinational Joint Task Force Operation ADI, Kyla, and I can see quite a lot of different nominations that have been retrieved from them. Maybe it seems that bringing them back on board is going to be in the interest, at least that will reduce. But let me read some of the comments underneath to see the gauge of what Nigerians are saying. According to Sadiq at Amasa 48, people here will be like, they should be wasted. Try to understand that receiving them serve as a motivation for thousands of them still in the bush, who still pose a risk to our national security. Believe accepting their repentance is in the best interest of the national security. These are the comments, and a lot of comment under that same tweet. Please change your name. You don't represent us. Kana Uku Nika. It looks like these are Hausas. I have said my opinion, brother. Sulaiman says, I strongly disagree. People cannot be wasting lives and repenting to mingle with us once more. Wasting them will serve as warning to others. Joseph, you said, do terrorists repent? Can you accommodate a repentant one in your home to live with you and your family? Mike Davison says, that is where I disagree with you. A terrorist can never repent totally. Sooner or later, they will definitely go back to the cause which they have sworn allegiance to. And we know they've done so, because the last one I saw repented, getting about 30,000, but eventually was still the one buying foodstuff, taking back to the bush for those in the bush. Starr Radio UK, the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London, the first day of the month of September. And let me say, as I come to you while you're speaking, with my beautiful phone, not me, but these were sent by one of our correspondents across the globe with the beautiful image of what we call the full blue moon. I'm going to bring that to you in just about a few minutes, but let me come back first to you, Mr. Archie, as that is going to be coming on our screen. This was an image taken yesterday night in the full moon that we have continued to experience, and you can tell how powerful some of our mobile phones could work in the 21st century, and that is that image.
Oh, all right. That's let me just pick your Miss image so you can see the full blue moon, but it's not blue in color though. Interestingly, my one of my little ones, my nieces asked me, he said, there's a blue moon, but it's not blue, it's gray, it's still like the moon. And I said, well, we're talking about having 2 full moons in a month. When it happens that way, that is what we go. It happens once a while, so that's what the blue moon means. That not necessarily that the moon is blue.
Video coming up as well.
Oh man. So you better get yourself a very good mobile phone, or if you have not got yourself a very good mobile phone. You see, this one can capture a proper full moon. Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. Yomi bringing you that. But one area that we touched that I quickly want to just touch on, that people made those comments pertaining to, that's bringing back, those who have terrorized people, bringing them back, inculcating them back into the communities. And it is quite troubling, because the thing is, there are some who can genuinely, let me put it that way, so not across, genuinely, change, because those are the ones who were coerced into going into that particular, fold. But when there are others who are, let me put it that way, they've been brainwashed, or that's the cause that they believe in all the time. So no matter what, I don't think that psychologists will be able to say that they've actually changed them, because if that was happening, the man who went to stab people on the London Bridge, you remember, I did a couple of years ago, yes, that thing wouldn't have happened, because they thought they were rehabilitating the person. So it's quite difficult. But again, do we give them a chance?
And we don't even have the kind of what it takes, to get to that state that the UK we're working to reform some of these individuals that he eventually killed. I think one of an injured few at London Bridge. Nigeria do not have that capacity yet. So the question is, when these individuals are repenting and brought back, where are they keeping them? And who is also making sure that while they are in there, will they have access to come out of that enclosure after a while? These are so many questions, and they can easily become, the next, like the sitting lion there. Especially if they move out of a particular state. We don't. Nigeria do not have a strong database, so we don't even know how many of them are already living close by in different communities across Nigeria.
Yeah, it's scary. But we want the government to come back and let us know exactly what measures they put in place for this rehabilitation they are talking about, and whether the people are truly repentant that we are bringing into our fold. Listen, as a Starr Radio UK. But before we finish the conversation, yesterday you were talking about some few events that's going to be taking place with the Yoruba Nation, which a professor did announce. Because I was in a meeting and I was monitoring what was going on, so halfway there I missed a bit there. So can you throw more light on that for those of us who want to know the events that will be taking place this month? That is September, yeah?
Well, the month of September is a month of also the campaign and awareness of the United Nations United Nations General Assembly, where the Yoruba Nation Diaspora Mega Rally, in alliance with the Yoruba World Media, the Yoruba Nation Self-Determination, is inviting to the super rally of the 78th United Nations General Assembly that is starting, by the 19th. Many Yorubas have been advised to try to come down there, as we can only use such to continue to ask for the dialogue and the diplomacy, especially as we know that many world leaders, whether those that are fighting each other, would also have to attend. The Yoruba Nation self-determination, as they say, is the right. So the tentative is going to be from the September the 19th up to the 22nd, when the final date will be announced as well. Every month, every day from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that also is coming up at the 78th UN General Assembly at the New York, where the rally point is going to be. Also, this weekend, the Canada part of the Yoruba Nation, Ilana Omodua, are also hosting what we call the Yoruba Nation Diaspora Rally in Toronto, where again, the message there is to continue to highlight, just like the Scottish are doing the same thing, the support of the Yoruba exit from Nigeria now. The 1999 Constitution is a fraud. The 1914 amalgamation has expired. This is actually coming up tomorrow, the 2nd of September, from 10 a.m. prompt at the Dundas Square, Yonge and Dundas in Toronto, where they're asking for the Yoruba Nation independence now. So you can see that, the campaign continue for those campaigners of the right to self-determination for the peaceful dissolution out of Nigeria, which is going to be their own interest. But it seems that already, the government is not yet speaking to anyone, because it looks like Bola Ahmed Tinubu government has a lot to deal with. But again, he'll be traveling to United Nations as well. So that literally means that maybe he might see the glance of those campaigners, because he might have a bit of seeing them, but whether the engagement with them will continue, we will find out as we continue the campaign.
Interesting. Before you go now, Bola Tinubu being an indigene of Yoruba, yes, the Southwest. Now, do you think that maybe, looking at things, he's not responded to any of the correspondence that have been, all letters or whatever that has been sent to him, but do you think that maybe he having a look at the whole thing and thinking about the marginalization or whatever way that the Yoruba or the Southwest think that they've not been treated fairly so far, and things, look, I'm going to do things to help you out, because I know most of the supporters of the Yoruba Nation say that no going back. So they mean that we've made our choice, this is what we want to do, we're not going to be renegotiating anything. All that we want is negotiate our exit. Now, if he comes out with another policy or something that can appease Yoruba people, do you think they will want to stay in there?
Well, what can literally please the Yoruba people? We might first want to go back to the 2014 confab, which gave, a clarity of how Nigeria should continue as a country. Mm-hmm. But it seems that, again, it was a wasted taxpayers' money for such a confab, because Buhari for 8 years could not talk about it. Whether the president is going to talk about it at some point in his administration, we still have to wait, because his administration is still very young. But again, what is he going to do to be able to please, the Yorubas that are part of Nigeria for 1914, which about almost 108 years, so that we can continue with the union of being Nigeria? The question is, many believe that there has been a lot of marginalization. Now that he's the president, he has actually done what we can call a bit of shift. We've seen the Yorubas becoming part of, the high position that we've never seen for a very long time. The Chief of Army Staff, the Custom, the Inspector General of Police. But we're not talking about just the Yorubas. We're also talking about the other part of Nigerians that are also asking for the right to self-determination. So even if the president seems to want to favor one part of the country, the other part is still going to also say the same thing. So are they going to wait where they have their own president from their own tribe? Then they might have opportunity to what we call bring the farm closer to your own doorstep. The issue is not what Tinubu is going to do to please the Yorubas. What he's doing is doing what he's going to do to please every Nigerian. And like he said, some few days ago in Abuja, I believe on Monday, that whatever he's doing now we will all have to manage and face the consequences of the pain because the unborn generation will enjoy it. The question is, do we Yorubas that are campaigners want to wait for the unborn generation to enjoy Nigeria, or like Chief Toladini says, in 1,000 years, you will still not be able to walk with the Fulanis because their mindset and ideology is a bit different from the Yorubas. So can we have the 1960 regional government back, where every region goes and manage and develop to their own pace? Maybe that could give a leeway for those that believe in the restructure of Nigeria, as they also against those that want a full self-determination right.
Well, listeners, an extended one, updates from Nigeria, and I hope that you enjoyed it, because we didn't bring you Niger Voices on Wednesday, so we tried to put everything in there so that you will enjoy it. All right, so Yomi is going to go now, but I'm going to continue with the rest of the news that is making the rounds in other parts of the world. Yomi, before you go.
Well, I'll be back again same time Monday. We know we had a break on Monday because of the carnival. And like I said, the carnival was a fantastic one, but next week, Monday, we kickstart again. But make sure you stay tuned with the Starr Radio UK on Twitter, on the social media, where we continue to give you all the highlights as the weekend is coming through. My name again is Olayomi Koiki, and have a very good afternoon, and I'll leave you in the